What's up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and today it is a momentous day because Precious Child has aced, which means there's slots open in the bag. Who will step up? Who will rise to the occasion? Who will be the disc to become the new chosen one of Robbie C's bag? Well, what an excellent question. Before we dive in, we have to ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Alec and Austin? Y'all having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
What a wild time. So I filmed videos before I went up to go visit Foundation last week at the time of filming this. And when filming the videos, it was top 5 discs on the chopping block in my bag. And one of them was indeed Precious Child. And I laughed because while I was at the trip, actually ended up getting an ace with Precious Child. And I love that disc so dearly. It means so much to me. It is without a doubt the longest standing disc that has ever sort of stayed in my bag from time of going in the bag to completion. And so it's there, just like you're seeing in this video right here, hanging on the wall. What a beauty. Added to the collection, forever safe. Man, feels great. So we are trying to replace that disc. And if I'm replacing Precious Child, that actually opens up several slots because, let's be honest, if I'm not trying to work another pig into Precious Child territory, then I could just have other molds fill that slot. So we're gonna have sort of a child challenge is probably the wrong word, and I don't think you guys would enjoy that. So it's going to be a little bit of a battle, but we have assembled 3 sets of 3 is how I'm looking at it, because I view Precious Child as part of this family of discs where I have my overstable putt and approach disc, I have a straighter version of an overstable putt and approach disc type mold, and then I have this flippy disc that is different than my polecat. My polecat is a lid type disc that I use on short approaches and circle 2 putts, like long circle 2 putts, especially when there's elevation change, because I just feel like it gives me a little more glide to the putt. So I don't need Precious Child's replacement to sort of be this flick of the wrist upshot that I like to do, because I don't really use Precious Child, or wasn't really using Precious Child for that slot. So we can sort of adjust what goes in the bag, and maybe there's a world that polecat comes out, but I really enjoy having the polecat in there, and I use it on a variety of shots. So I think the polecat is not included in this argument. Taking us to 2 different setup options that we want to look at and sort of do a trial. And I want to talk about what slot, why I have these, how they balance one another, and also sort of put them head to head in a little competition. But talking about why I enjoy or what I need out of that shot, out of that slot option. So you ready to meet the competitors? So the first lineup has a disc that's already in the bag, and that is my Zone GT. This is from the Battle Pack zones. This is the overstable putt and approach disc that I was using, and if I'm being 100% honest, one iteration of this is going to have this as well as the Vessel, because I found that the Vessels, while they have a similar hand feel to the test flights from the Battle Packs, are a lot straighter. So I think that can immediately go in there. But talking about seasoning in an overstable putt and approach disc, this is a Jawbreaker Zone. We did this stamp way back when we did a Discraft run. We ran some Robbie C zones. So this is just a Jawbreaker Zone, and man, feels good, but obviously it's gonna season in quick. And one singular round that I played, it got chipped up. So Jawbreaker Zone is option number 2. And then option number 3, the 7th most popular throwing putter in the world. This is the Gateway Chief. Great flyer, amazing. I think that lots of people should bag and throw this disc. So we're trying the Chief out. It's just really straight, does a lot of great things. And obviously the voters sell you, this is just a great flyer. Now option 2 is a little spicier, just because I know that that Zone GT is a little more overstable. And so I have a TI zone at the top end here. We're just trying the no groove top thing. I have spent so much time living in groove top life that I wonder, I've been throwing zones for I've been throwing that zone specifically for quite a while now, and the issue is always the bottom of the zone. So I'm wondering how just a seasoned, like seasoning in just a stock zone is going to feel. Really like the TI zone, how it looks, feels, all of that. Next in the lineup, we actually have the Eagle McMahon range, which is funny because the range is a 2-speed, and you may say that, hey, Mr. YouTube man, that really clashes with the polecat. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you that when I was throwing this in, when I had this in the place of the polecat, it really blurred the lines of, it flew more like Precious Child than it did the polecat. And I could throw this thing like a considerable distance. I could throw it farther than a polecat for sure. But what I really liked is I could throw it on some straight forehands. It felt a little more torque resistant than other options. But when trying to throw it on turnovers, it was just a very straight workable disc. So I have it in comparison because in the flippy slot in that Precious Child world, I have an inner core. This is a shout out to Overthrow because they were the ones that first did this die of the Trash Panda eating the Robbie C logo. But yeah, inner core glides forever, and I think that my only worry with this configuration is that the lines could blur between these two, but I'm thinking more so in the backhand results that I wanted out of Straight Pig and Precious Child I can get out of the inner core, and then forehand results I can get out of this. So rather than 2 discs doing those things, I kind of combine all the shots, and I think that these 2 discs do those shots, just different orders. So should be interesting. Now, like I said, I have the polecat in the bag, and I actually have the Zone SS in the bag as well. So definitely some options available. So I think we're gonna go side by side comparisons here for sort of shots and what they're being used for. And we're gonna go with the zones, or the overstable punt approach discs here, and we're gonna throw them on forehands, see how it goes. This hole is 286 feet. I don't know if I'm being dyslexic here. Yeah, 276 feet, and it's just out there. So this will be a full pump with both of these discs on a forehand, but let's see what we can do, get things ripping. That's so nose up, that was terrible. Like, I just knew that was a bad shot. So that's tough, first showing, but let's see. Much better. And you can see, hole's really straight, just not, I don't think that TI zone is anywhere near as overstable as the other one. Now, let's talk with once again, when we said the range and the inner core are going to be confusing and which one's more overstable. So I'm going to do the range side by side with the Jawbreaker zone. The Jawbreaker zone will be more overstable. The thing about the Jawbreaker zone in this slot is that I'm putting it in there for its initial flight. It will be used sort of in between those 2 discs, what they can do, but I expect this to season in really fast because that's just what Jawbreaker plastic does. Yeah, so even as a zone, we didn't start that very wide, and it faded, but I think a lot of the extra fade came from the fact that it was fading down a hill. Let's try the range, see what happens. Well, we threw it a country mile. We just grip locked it. Not a good showing for the line we wanted, but it does show you that it goes way farther than I can throw a polecat. Next up, inner core and the Chief. Let's try the Chief. As you can see, Chief has some turn to it. Probably needed to make sure that I threw these on, if I'm going to throw them flat, have them turn towards the basket, because that should be what both of these discs do pretty comfortably. Inner core, right there. Now, as someone who has bagged the Battle Pack zone for, really it's the first zone that ever stuck in the bag, being honest, I've always known that it's more overstable than a classic zone. And that has definitely been an adjustment coming from pigs, because I just can throw a pig farther than I can throw that specific zone. But what I really like about that zone is that flex shots and flex lines were available with it that just weren't really available with a pig, because lots of pigs, I feel like when you throw them on Anhyzer with any force, they don't really like to come out of that Anhyzer. They just hold it without burning over. And that's just not always the shot we were looking for. So at this stage, we grip locked this range pretty far, but if I remember correctly, on a forehand, it can actually hold really straight. So we're gonna start by throwing it on some Hyzer and just seeing what it does. Yeah, it's gonna hold that Hyzer beautifully. Maybe a little stand up, but that's fine, because that way, if we want to just pump a straight forehand, we can do that by just ripping it. Now there's 4 shots that we really, you saw there, that's kind of initial flights, things like that. There's 4 shots that we're really trying to cover with the replacement of the straight pig and precious child. And those are, for straight pig, we need to replace a straight forehand, and we need to replace a Hyzer that doesn't sort of finish and dump really hard. As for precious child, what we want to do is we want to have a disc that can Hyzer flip pretty comfortably, and then we also want a disc that when thrown on extreme Anhyzer doesn't really think about turning over. So looking at our slew of options that we have here, we've got a basket tucked behind the tree just out there in advance. So when I talk about a disc that fades but doesn't really dump for the straight pig option, you can see here that if we take the zones, or the zone GT, it's going to go out there, and when it fades, that one bounced off the pole, but it was trying to bounce and skip and go pretty far left. The same is probably true. Well, we didn't even hang that one inside or hang it wide enough, but it moves left pretty aggressively. So when looking at the straight pig alternative, whether that be the range or that be the jawbreaker zone, we want to make sure that they aren't just necessarily going to have huge skips. Now the zone obviously does, because it's a zone. It's no different of a mold than the one that just flew that way. But once again, I have to sort of give a little fairness to that one, knowing that I'm not picking it for its current state, which according to some may not even be a fair shot or comparison. There, even on a Hyzer, range kind of sits and does its thing beautifully. I like the range a lot. The range has been a disc that truly has been a conundrum for so many people because of my statements and feelings on the Berg, but I love the range. So the hypocrisy has always been tough, but I could see a world that a range fits into that slot because it already does what I want, and it would season in towards precious child slot. Now, here we have the chief and we have the inner core. So this shot, we want to throw this on Hyzer and see if it will stand up in this flight. That was a good bit of Hyzer, but it definitely still stood up a little bit. And then we have the inner core, trying the same thing. Now, something about inner cores that I always forget, because I'm bagged in inner core in quite some time, is they go sneaky far. So that is a fun benefit to that, is that having that disc, it gets a great distance push. But for the amount of Hyzer we threw both of those on, I liked it because the Precious Child was a gap hitter for me. I could just yam on some Hyzer, have it stand up and hold straight for a little while. I think I could do that with both of those discs. And I can see it, people. I can see why there are so many of you out there who bag and love the Chief. So, not counting the zone that I threw short, hit the pole, was gonna skip. The jawbreaker zone got a skip, but still, because just not as overstable, didn't try to push too far. Range and the Chief both right next to the target. And then the inner core, guys, just goes so far. The inner core almost as far away going long as the zone that I threw inside was short. Inner core just goes so far, guys. All right, so this is a fun hole because this is actually hole 14 for the course that is a big blind hyzer. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw to the other tee box because we wanna test these on other shots. So once again, we have the zones as our point of reference. I'm gonna switch the order this time, and we're gonna go with bag selection B, and we're trying to throw to the tee pad back there. And you can see, just holds really straight, and then has some fade at the end. Everything that you would expect out of a zone. When we go with the zone GT, you can just see that it just has more fade to it, which I like, especially if my secondary option, I'm going to be able to get a little more push and distance out of, which is probably why the Jawbreaker zone also has some shine there for me, because I still get the similar hand feel, but I know one just has more fade. So we're gonna try the range here. And you can see, holds laser straight. That's pretty wonderful. I like that a lot. And then Jawbreaker zone. It's just really hard to look at the Jawbreaker zone and the Zone GT side by side and not think that they're good complements to one another. Now, on the Anhyzer, this is an important one because we want to commit to throwing an aggressive Anhyzer here, but we don't want the disc to burn over. That was one of my favorite things about Precious Child, was that I could trust, as someone who really has a hard time committing to Anhyzer, when I finally got on it, I could do that without having to actually worry it's gonna burn over. And there, holds it the entire time, doesn't think about backing out. Now for the people's choice, the Gateway Chief. Came a lot more inside that time, but also didn't turn into a roller, coming much more inside. I think both of these are fantastic options. Also, I want to take a quick moment because you can see him out in the distance, but shout out to JMo over there. JMo is a local disc golfer, actually a member of the Birdie Fam. We filmed a video this morning, collabing for, he's doing Vlogmas, and yeah, so shout out to JMo. He's just under 400 subscribers, got the channel going, he's been at it for a little bit, so if you want to show someone some love this holiday season, head over to JMo's channel, and yeah, give him a follow. It would mean the world to me to support the people that are kind and support here. But this is what the people care for. This is what the people want. Ace runs. We're gonna go flexors with the zones. That's just so high. Too many forehands today. I'm starting to feel it in the elbow. That's not good. I really like that line. All right, time for straight shots from our straight options. So, zone. Well, we pulled that on Anhyzer and it didn't come out of it. That's, I guess, a good sign. Also pulled that on Anhyzer into the trees. These are great shots, everyone. I guess that purple zone was good. All right, Chief. Oh, Chief held laser straight, and then inner core. Well, one disc outshined the rest in the polls and in our hearts. Gateway Chief, guys. Goated? All right, so that is, I think, where we're gonna land after these is like, I enjoy this, but it lands perfectly between the jawbreaker and the ringer top. I really like the ringer top. I've enjoyed the overstability of it. I think a subtle bonus feature for me on the ringer top is the fact that I can throw baby flex lines with it and really trust that it's gonna fade out. So I think this one's winning in the overstable slot. I think in terms of the straight throwers, you guys can tell me because it's probably true, a little more biased towards the zone here just because I like that it gives me the distance push that I'm not necessarily getting out of the other zone, but it still is going to have reliable fade, and I think it's just going to season in beautifully. And I'm looking for a long-term relationship, you know what I'm saying? So I think this could be really, really good having a jawbreaker zone in the bag, even though it could deform really fast. So sorry, range, but don't think it's you. And then in terms of these two, really tough decision because I love Jesse and I love the inner core, and I'm like, every time I rethrow it, I'm just like, man, this is amazing. When I throw it on the course, I throw a lot of inner cores for field work, but I just, throwing it shots on a course has been reminding me like, man, this is really wonderful. But I think the struggle with this is that it just goes so far that it really muddies some of my other waters in decision making. So I think we're gonna try to join the nation since so many people are bagging it, and we're gonna do the Chief. What do you guys think? So I think that our setup that we're going to land on and try for at least a little while is going to be Zone GT, Jawbreaker Zone, and the Gateway Chief. But if you can think of another 3-disc combination that you think would cover, you heard the shots that we're looking for, and these did cover a lot of those bases, let me know in the comments down below, and I will be happy to try it. It's an open world we got now, guys. Let's enjoy it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. But for now, make it fantastic for someone else too. And we're going to leave you with the birdie.